In this video, we're going to review how to provide an override for a student in the Bridge account. The first thing we are going to do is log into Bridge. On the self-service portal, you'll click on Faculty Logon. And once you click Faculty Logon, it will either prompt you to enter a username and password, which would be the same username and password that you use to log on to your Blue Ridge computer, and it will bring you to the Faculty Services landing page. And from here, we'll select Registration Overrides. And on the registration overrides page, we're going to select our term. So the term we want to use is fall 2022 to 2023. And then you'll be able to enter either a student C number or a last name and a first name. So we have our C number, so we're going to enter it here and then hit submit. And then you'll see the student information show up here, and you can click anywhere where it highlights blue here. You can click on this to get to the next screen where you actually enter the override information. Now, if you enter a student ID or name and it doesn't match what you thought it would down here, then you would need to go back up and correct the student ID or name information until you get the correct student information. So on this screen, there are several overrides that you could select from here. We'll talk about a few of them. And then you'll have a course selection list here. You'll note that you can only submit registration overrides for a course that you are listed as the course instructor for. So in this drop-down list, I'm listed for the instructor for this fictional course here for the purposes of this demonstration. So I only have one choice, but if you're teaching multiple courses, they'll all show up in this drop-down list. So first, we want to select the type of override that we're providing here. And this override will directly correlate to the error message that the student is receiving in Bridge when they try to register themselves. There are several override types, and we're going to talk about a few of them today. You'll notice immediately that you cannot do a capacity override, which means that if a course is full, the student can add themselves to the wait list, and there's no way to override a student to get into a full class. Now, a class override is done when the class has a restriction, such as you have to be a sophomore level to take the course. Duplicate courses means that a student wants to take two of the same course in the same semester, which, let's say, for example, you're offering two special topics courses. They're going to have the same course number, but they'll be different courses, so you need to provide an override for a student that would like to take both of them in the same semester. A major override is common if you have a major restriction on a course and you want to allow a student in another major or a student who's non-degree to be able to take the course. Prerequisite override is probably the most common override that you'll do, and this happens if a student does not exactly meet the course prerequisites, but you're okay with this particular student gaining entry to the course. Repeat hours is if they have taken this course too many times. Special approval, this is for such things as if you have instructor approval on the course and you're going to have to override every student entry into the course. This happens a lot on some of the internship courses. And there's also a time conflict override. So for the time conflict override, we want to be very cautious with this override because you don't want to allow a student to miss a large majority of your class, and you definitely do not want the student to miss a large majority of someone else's class without that instructor being a part of the time conflict override discussion. A typical use of this override would be something like two classes in the same building with a 5-minute overlap. Then a time conflict override would make sense. So for this particular override, we are going to select the prerequisite override, which is our most common override. And once you've made your selection, you'll select the course. And of course, I only have one choice here because that's the only course that I'm the course instructor for. So I've got my override in and my course selected, and then I will click submit. And now the override is listed here. So you can see that the override went through appropriately, and now the student can actually go into Bridge and register themselves. And remember that the override process does not actually register a student, it just gives them permission to register for the course in their Bridge account. So if you have any additional questions about overrides, please contact the Office of the Registrar.